When people train legs, they often just train legs, but they don't really train their hamstrings. They think they do until they realize that their quads are growing, but their hamstrings are lacking. It's flat, it's weak, and it's almost missing at this point. When I'm looking at someone's legs, one thing that I admire about somebody who trains their legs is someone who has really developed quads, really developed glutes, but their hamstrings, insane. Our hamstrings are a key part of our daily functional movement. Our hamstrings assist us with tasks like bending our knees and extending our hips. And our hamstrings tend to be one of the hardest muscles to grow because they are behind us, so we kind of tend to forget to train them. But when you do train them more intentionally, your legs will automatically look more defined, more sculpted, more athletic, more balanced, and just better proportioned. So today I'm showing you the fastest way to grow your hamstrings, and I'm sharing with you 5 of my top 5 hamstring exercises. So if you're the type of person who just shows up to the gym and does random exercises, that ends here. Go ahead and bookmark this video and save it because it's definitely going to help you. So like I said, our hamstrings have 2 jobs: hip extension and knee flexion, and most people only train one of these without actually realizing it. So if your hamstrings aren't growing, it's because your workouts are literally missing half the muscle's function. The first exercise on my list is the Barbell Romanian deadlift. Now, of course, you can do this exercise with a pair of dumbbells. So RDLs grow your hamstrings because they put them under tension in a lengthened position through hip extension with no rest during the movement. And that's the perfect formula for hypertrophy. So remember, the hamstrings do 2 really big things, which is 1, hip extension, which means pulling your hips back to neutral after hinging, and number 2, knee flexion, which simply means bending the knee. So RDLs target the hip extension function. This is where the hamstrings produce the most force and therefore grows the most. RDLs load the hamstrings in their strongest growth position, and when you hinge back during an RDL, your hips travel backwards, your hamstrings lengthen under tension, and your glutes assist the movement, but the hamstrings do the deep stabilizing. And muscles grow the most when they are under long length tension. So the RDL puts the hamstrings in that exact position. And also, RDLs targets the hamstrings without overloading your lower back. So unlike conventional deadlifts, the RDL keeps the bar close. It doesn't go all the way to the floor, and it keeps the tension on the hamstrings the entire time. You're not resting at any point, so your hamstrings are under constant load. So the rep range here that you should be aiming for is about 8 to 12 reps at about 3 to 4 sets each. Next exercise is a lying or seated hamstring curl. Hamstring curls target the primary function of the hamstrings, knee flexion. So when you curl the weight in, whether it's lying or seated, you're forcing the hamstring muscles to contract under load through their full range of motion. And that tension, especially in the lengthened position at the bottom and that strong squeeze at the top, is what triggers your muscle fibers breakdown and its growth. And the seated curl lengthens the hamstrings even more at the hip, which increases stretch-based tension and can lead to greater hypertrophy. The lying hamstring curl hits the lower and mid hamstring heavily and lets you focus on pure contraction. So for this exercise, the rep range is about 12 to 15 reps at about 3 to 4 sets of each. And the key here is not to ego lift. Your hamstrings respond better when you're slow and controlled in the movement, slow tempo, more time under tension, and when there's a full stretch and you're squeezing the contraction. And the next exercise is a rear foot elevated single leg deadlift. So elevating the rear foot shifts the focus more into the hamstrings, and this variation loads the hamstrings through hip hinging, which is the hamstring's second major function. And elevating the back foot on the bench just increases the stretch on the working leg, and it forces it to stabilize, to lengthen, and to contract through a deeper range of motion. And that combination of stretch and tension and single leg stability is perfect for hamstring growth. And for this exercise, the rep range that you should be aiming for is about 8 to 12 reps at 3 to 4 sets of each. And the final exercise on my list is the staggered stance hip thrust. So basically, a staggered stance shifts more load onto the front working leg. So during the hip thrust, the hamstrings assist the glutes by controlling hip extension. Because the weight is unevenly distributed, the working leg gets more tension through the full range of motion, which creates a stronger stretch to contraction pattern that builds both the glute hamstring tie-in and overall hamstring strength. And in order to bias this exercise towards your hamstrings, one, you want to round your upper back slightly, push your hips back, and think pushing through your heels into the pad. So lift using your hamstrings and not your back. For this exercise, the rep range that you want to aim for is about 15 to 20 reps. And again, 3 to 4 sets of each. And my closing tip, if you want your hamstrings to grow fast, then train them at least twice a week. So have a day where you train them heavy and have another day where you train them with higher reps and more isolation. Always, like I say, prioritize your form and your technique over your weights, because your hamstrings grow from tension and not from your ego. And that is it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know in my comments if you have any questions. And as usual, I will see you guys in my next video.